Today we'll be making a traditional 5-point jean back pocket. This is a patch style pocket with a 1/2 inch double fold hem at the opening and 2 rows of stitches along the outside to hold it in place. Before you attach this pocket, you'll want to have sewn your back yoke, your center back seam, and any other style lines throughout the back leg, and done any decorative additions to your pocket. To start, I've already cut out my patterns and serged around the edge. You can also use a zigzag stitch on a home sewer or leave your pocket edges raw. First, measure and iron a 1/2 inch double fold hem at the opening of your pocket. Iron the hem from the front side and use your gridded ruler to check that the pocket hem is straight before sewing. Sew your pocket hem at a 1/2 inch seam allowance, guiding the needle along the folded edge of the hem and keeping the pocket straight. For the 4 remaining sides of your pocket, fold over the seam allowance and iron it at 1/2 inch. Make sure to create the points around the corners of the pocket. Again, use your gridded ruler to check that your pocket is straight and that the bottom point of your pocket is in the center, and adjust it accordingly. Continue to check and adjust the points until they are in the desired place. Trim away any excess seam allowance inside the folded sections in order to remove bulk when sewing. If you have seam allowance poking up above the pocket hem, trim away some of the seam allowance from the hem to reduce bulk. Iron the seam allowance on the sides, pushing it downward, easing it into the bottom corner where the excess folded seam allowance was taken away. Iron again from the front side, making sure that the seam allowance from the hem is neatly tucked under into the pocket. Place your pocket on top of what you are sewing it to, making sure that it is straight, lined up how you want it, and pin the pocket so that it's flat and won't move while sewing. Make sure the corners are secured and that all the seam allowance is tucked under the pocket. Now attach your pocket with 2 lines of stitching around the sides of the pocket, starting at the top right hand corner, leaving the hem as the opening. Use your presser foot as a guide to keep your stitches straight and along the edge of your pocket. I lined up the edge of my presser foot with the edge of my pocket. When turning corners, make sure to lift up the presser foot while the needle is in the fabric to get a clean turn and try and keep in line with the point of your pocket as best as possible. Make sure to backstitch over the edge of the pocket hem to hold everything in place. For your second row of stitching, pick a new point on your pocket to line up your presser foot with. My first row of stitching was not as close to the edge of the pocket as I had hoped. For my second line of stitching, I lined up the edge of my pocket with the inside edge of my presser foot to get my stitch right along the edge of the pocket. On corners, try and keep your points of your two stitch lines lined up and in line with your points on your pocket. Before I turn, I pivot my fabric a lot so that I can see how my points are lining up. Also try and keep your stitch lines parallel to one another along the whole length of the pocket, but varying these stitches can be a form of decoration for the pocket. 2 rows of stitching helps your pocket stay secure and hold up to the pressure of things pulling on the seam. Once you've finished your 2 rows of stitching, create bar tacks at the opening corners of your pocket by repeatedly backstitching to reinforce the stitches, making sure to catch as much of the seam allowance from the hem as possible. You can also create bar tacks on a home sewer by setting your stitch to a very tight zigzag. Give it a final press and trim all your threads, and you have your finished pocket.